never to be seen. To a place where the air's always filled with screams, so hot that the land only grows weeds. A place filled with demons and ghosts and beats. Betrayed by some comrades and too brute, I'ma get you right back.
Morning guys, how you all doing? Welcome to the channel, and if you're new to the channel, I'm Nigel from the Norfolk Fishing Channel. Today I'm going to start a series, 5-part series on the basics of to sort of like intermediate level on starting to fish. It's going to be in 5 parts. First part I'm going to do waggler fishing and slider fishing. The second part will be on stick floats, all the different kinds of stick floats, ligament sticks, wire stems, bolognese, bit of bolognese fishing. I'm going to do feeder fishing, all the different kinds, open end feeder, all the different kinds of feeders, window feeders, cage feeders, solid feeders, maggot feeders, all sorts of ledgering, bomb work, link ledger work, method feeder work. Then I'll do a section on poles fishing and whip fishing, and that should be it. So, but today I'm just going to start with waggler fishing, and basically what you're going to need to start fishing. Basically, it's going to be everything you want to start with: rods, reels, lines, hooks, weights, and just how to go about it. All of these videos, I'm not going to specify one method, or it's just going to be go out and catch anything you like. 1 second, I'll just keep feeding. I've just got down here at the river today, and even though I'm doing waggler fishing, it's worked out perfect because it's a really high tide, and it's quite slack at the minute. So, but I'm not fishing today. Is not about fishing. It's more about teaching you how to fish, and if you're new to fishing, what you're going to need. So basically, to start with, rods. Now, if you're brand new to fishing, as I say, we're going to concentrate on just catching anything. So it could be anything from gudgeon, bleak, dace, roach, rudd, all the way up to tench, bream, and even small carp. So that's what I'm sort of like looking at, all the way up to about sort of like £6, so catch anything you like. So first of all, a rod. Now for a waggler, because the waggler is attached bottom end only, and you're fishing light on the drop for predominantly roach, but you're fishing throughout the water, so your bait's falling all the way through the water to the bottom if you want to fish on the bottom. And so you sort of like, you're targeting everything. So if you're new to the fishing, I'll suggest 11 or 12 foot rod. If you're a little bit more experienced, a bit older, a bit taller, and you can think you handle it, a 13 foot. But to start off with, I would say an 11 foot rod. And I've just got this one here, not an expensive rod, just 11 foot Shakespeare, 3-piece, light to medium waggler, up to 10 to 30 grams, maximum reel line is £8, but it's a nice light, slim little rod, 3-piece, and they all just push in. And what you want in a waggler rod is a nice progressive action. I'll just turn this around a bit. So what do I mean by progressive action? Well, basically the rod bends in an even arc all the way through, and as it goes down the blank, it progressively gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So softer the tip, and the more it goes down the rod, the more the rod bends, and the more that it powers up in the mid, the bud section. That's a progressive rod. When we come on to stick float fishing, you want a little bit more of a flick, fast action rod where all the action is in the tip section and less power down at the butt section. But to start with, nice all-round float is a float that's going to bend nicely all the way through. Now the reel, just going to keep some bait really. The reel for waggler fishing, I would say definitely start off. I would say definitely start off with a 3000 size. It's perfect for waggler fishing. Not too big. 2.5 to 3000 for light waggler work. Get rid of that little loop. And what you want your line filled right up just under the spool there. And on here I've got 3 pound line, and it's 3 pound Maxima. You want a good quality reel, one with a few ball bearings and one with a really good clutch. I mean, when you're just starting fishing, you can get the forward clutch, which I prefer for when I'm targeting bigger fish, and when you become more experienced it's a little bit smoother, but one with a really good clutch where it's just so loose, just a few gentle turns, and yeah, it's starting to, and there's, you know, a nice smooth clutch. So if you do hook something, it's just easy, just turn it to release the line, and that's locked up solid. See that? That's perfect. So a nice small reel, 3000 size, will cover most float fishing work quite comfortably. As I say, a good starting point, 3 pound line for waggler work. I wouldn't go much above 4 pound. You start going above 4 pound line, especially if you're using light floats. You're not going to get the distance. The thicker the line, obviously the heavier it is, the less casting distance you're going to achieve. I mean, I would say if you're fishing a lake that holds a good head of small carp, tench and bream, yeah, probably 4 pound is better. You need a bigger. But on a river, when you're targeting all sorts of bits and pieces, anything up to, I'm not expecting to catch anything more than a couple of, well, more than a pound, pound and a half at the most today on the river. So 3 pound is perfect. I've got, you want a line that's sort of mid buoyancy, unless you're specifically, I've got some in there, the stick float, float fishing line, but we'll come on to that later. So just a line that's sort of like neutral buoyancy. You can do what you want with it. I can put on washing up liquid on here, that'll degrease it, that will help sink the line, sorry. Or I can spray a little bit of silicone on there, or rub a little bit of Vaseline to float the line if I want to. So 3 pound line's perfect starting point. Is must use a hook length and not tie direct straight through. The reason being, you know, if you do hook a big fish, you want a weak point in the line where it's going to break. You don't want to snap the line up near the reel or above your float where you're going to lose the whole rig. It's not good for the fish and it's expensive. So having a hook length is obviously a fail-safe in there. So if anything breaks, you're just losing the small section of line. You just put a new hook length on and away you go. But if you're new to it, you can buy them. I've got, I don't have many, but I'll put one on for the purpose of today's video. So you can just buy the packets. when I'm river fishing, I always tie up a load of hook lengths in here. I have got the shorter ones for when I'm fishing on commercials, but when you're waggler fishing and float fishing, you want a longer hook length. The reason why you want a longer hook length, it just gives that last sort of like 8, 10, 1 foot of line, just a nice slow natural drop through the water. But as I say, you can buy the hook lengths already tied. It's got a loop in the end. You just tie a loop in the main line, and then when you pass the loop through the loop. But when you're doing it, it's really, really, really important to pass the thickest line, the main line, through the eye of the weaker line, not the other way around. Because if you put the hook length, I see so many people put the hook length eye through the thick line and then hook back through the. When you pull it, you're pulling the line tight on itself onto the weaker line. It's obviously going to snap more. But if you put the thick line through the eye of the hook length, the weaker line, and then hook back through the main line again, you get 2 loops meshing together. So a nice little figure of 8, and it's a lot stronger knot, even though you're still the weak point there. And then floats. Okay, then we move on to floats. There's all sorts of wagglers you can buy. Straight wagglers, insert wagglers. All go from I've got a nice little set here, old peacock inserts. This is an old set. I think it's Ivan Mark's set, this is. But predominantly of all my wagglers, all made of a peacock, all different diameters, thicknesses, different weights. I've got a few of the crystal ones, but not many anymore. I don't like the clear plastic ones. They're brittle. As I say, for waggler fishing on a river or in the lake, you can't beat natural peacock. These are all peacock quill. There's obviously the quill from the peacock bird, from the feather, and obviously the different thicknesses and different grades from the different part of the peacock. But it just has that right amount of weight, presentation, how it sits in the water. So get yourself some decent peacock wagglers. It's worth spending that little bit more. They cast better, they fly out straight. They're a lot more durable than the plastic ones. So once you've got everything, you've got your rod, your reel, your line, it's just a case of then threading the line through the eyes. And today, for the purpose of the video, I'm just going to be fishing, well, we'll fish 3 lines, but we'll just start off in front of me. Now, I'll just put this straight down in front of me. I'll just turn it around here. You can see the float there, just down here. And what you need to do before you start, this is a really light float. It just takes 4 number 6s, and I've got 2 number 6s around the float, and I've got 3 number 8 shots, just spread evenly down the line. Before you start fishing, you need to know the depth. You can go out and just go out, just buy a few plummets. Now it's going to be quite deep here. This is why I've decided to fish close in with this one, but this rod will go through the day. I aim to fish shallow with it. So we put this down there, and that plummet is going to sink the float. You see that float's disappeared under the surface. If I lift the rod, I can feel the plummet hit the bottom there, so we're not far off actually. A couple of inches off the bottom there. What we need to do now is need to add a bit of weight, bit more depth to the rig, and basically all that is, so I'll move these weights further up. I'm just giving that another foot, just gently. You don't want to push or tighten these shots too tight. You just gently nip them on the line. Okay, this takes 4 number 6s, so I've just got 2 number 6s and 2 number 8s. And we'll go through the shot in a second. So let's put the fish down there. Still not quite deep enough. I will be shallowing this one back up as the day goes on, but just for now. So lower it in, and there you go, look, there's the float. So now I know we're on the bottom. And there we go. If I lift that, you see the rod bend over, the weight. So we're just bang on the bottom there. So now we've found the depth. I was going to say as well, obviously you need to shot the floats up, and you need to go out and buy yourself a really good dispenser. These Dinsmore non-toxic super soft shot are brilliant. They've got like a nice coating on the outside. You don't have to bite them on the line, you just squeeze them. And they've got SSGs, AAs, BBs, number 1s, number 4s, number 6s, number 8s in there, so everything you need. And just as a rough guide, for the next shot up, there's normally 2 of the smaller shots. So there's 2 number 8s, 2 number 6, 2 number 6s, 2 number 4, 2 number 4s, 2 number 1, 2 number 1s to a BB, 2 BBs to AAA, and 2 AAAs to an SSG. That's roughly, I mean it's not bang on to the gram, but for a good starting point, you know, if you double the smaller shot, you'll get the next shot up. So let's start fishing, shall we? So now we know the depth. As I say, we're only fishing just off the rod tip here, so you don't need a really big, thick, heavy float. So I'll just use a really light float. And I've got 2, when you're waggler fishing, you want about 90-95% of the shot around the float, and the rest of it you just want a nice, what they call shirt button style pattern down there, and just a spread of number 8s and number 10s down the line to give the bait really nice, slow, full, gentle drop through the water. So when you're waggler fishing, you just take the bait arm off and hold the hook just above on the hook length, just above the hook. Put this gentle bend in the rod, in the tip, and then it's just like a little underarm flick. And now what you need to do is, you've seen the float go in, and you've got to count those number 8s down. Oh, a small bite there. Do that again. When those number 8s take shot, you'll see it register on the float. I might just take a little bit of depth off of there. And there you go, that's all the weights down now. You can see on the float there. And it's perfect. What I've just done is, because I had a couple of casts earlier on, with it being summertime, the fish don't always want to be directly on the bottom. It's a little bit too deep, so I've just taken probably about a foot off. Nice little roach. Just taking about a foot off the depth. It's always, with float fishing, is never be static with what you're doing. Always, you know, you do a little bit more to get a better presentation, get your shots down, find out where the fish are. And literally, I'm just flicking it under. And what you want to be doing, you just want to be feeding. I'm literally feeding a pinch like that. Pinch of casters, pinch of hemp. I've only got some dead maggots with me, but I'm going to be using them in the ground bait in a minute, and showing you I'm going to be fishing a little bit further out on the bottom. Float's gone. A nice roach. I've got some tears with me. I've got casters, as I say, I've got some sweet corn. Sweet corn can be a very good bait here for the bigger roach. I'll just try a little bit of sweet corn actually. See if there's any nice roach and rudd in here. When you're hooking the sweet corn, just hook it through and just get the hook ever so slightly coming out the side. Again, I'm just gently, that's as far as I'm fishing. Not even a rod length. Just where we plumbed up on the edge of there's a big drop there. I know I've fished this before. There's a little bite there. That's all the shots now down. Now if that float comes up in the water, we know that something's intercepted it and lifted the shot up. Nothing on the sweet corn. Let's go back to the maggot. Just had a nice roach hybrid. With it being such a high tide, I'm feeding a little bit closer in. It just seemed to be literally. A bit more accurately, just literally straight down. But we're going to do this for half an hour, and then we'll get a slightly bigger waggler, work further out. I'm going to start feeding a line with. Yeah, we'll do this for half an hour, and they've got a slightly bigger waggler, which I'm going to feed a bit further out with ground bait, with a little bit of hemp and casters and dead maggots with the ground bait, and try running it along the bottom. And then I've got that's on a 13-foot rod, and I've got another 14-foot rod with a big 2.5 AA waggler on, which will cast right out into the middle and see if we can catch anything down the middle, catch it on the drop. Catching these lovely sort of like roach skimmer hybrids sort of things. It's a single red maggot. And I'm now literally just feeding down there, pinch at a time, pinch of hemp, pinch of casters. When you're fishing on a river, it's not so important on a lake, but on a river, just work out which way the flow's going. This is tidal river, so it does change, but we're right at the top of the tide at the minute, and it looks like it's starting to ebb out. So it's flowing right to left. But always feed slightly downstream. If it's flowing right to left, feeds downstream, because if you start feeding directly in front of you and the fish move up, it's very hard to get deep, good presentation. So always feed downstream. That's at 11 o'clock on the river, because the time that feed then reaches the bottom, especially if it's flowing really fast. I mean, at the minute, this is not like this river. It's really, really slow. And that's why the fish should come close in. But this river can absolutely blast through, and you'll need a stick float with 5-6 grams on it. There we go. But so yeah, if you feed slightly downstream, then you can follow it with your float. But if you start feeding in front of you, it's difficult to get the correct presentation if the fish move up in front of you. Missed that one. Just put it a little bit further out. That flow's starting to pick up now. It's just always a case of having a little bit of cast about, a little bit closer, a little bit further. Fish will move with the flow and the tide, and they won't stay static in one place all the time. They'll come up in the water depending on how you're feeding. If you're feeding more, you might come to intercept the feed. Oh, another nice roach. Okay, I'm still feeding this line. What I've just started to do is I'm going to feed it less often, but a bit heavier. And now I'm going to move out onto a different line where you can see there's all, like a crease. When you get a bit of fluff or leaves in that, you can see there's a line a bit further out. And I've had a plumb up, and I forgot to say, when you're plumbing up with a waggler, always just put the minimum amount of shot on. I mean, this takes 6 BB, so just put like 2 BBs to lock it. And the reason is, when you put that in, then the float will just come to about here. You don't want to put 6 BB on and shot it to here, and then put the plummet on, because if you're way over depth, that float is always going to settle to here, so you're never going to know how far. So always put the minimum amount of shot just to lock the float, and then put the plummet on. And obviously, as I say, because that will set like that, if you're over depth, that float will come out right out of the water, and you can see how over depth you are, and then you can just adjust it down, keep then pulling the float down until you're about that far, and that'll be bang on. And then once you've got the depths set properly, you can take the plummet off, and then shot up your float accordingly. So anyway, let's get cast out of the other one. I've got on this one, I've just got this is I think it's 5 BB. Let's have a look. It's not too big, but it's a 5 BB peacock waggler with an insert. It's got 4 BBs around the float, and then throughout the line I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 number 8s, spread shirt button, but a little bit further down in the water, sort of like from 2/3 all the way down, shirt button style. Again, I've got just £2 line on here. I'm using a closed face reel, and then I've not even fed this line yet or anything, but I've got some ground bait, and in there I've got some dead maggots, plenty of casters, plenty of hemp. Might need some more weight on that, and a few grains of sweet corn. I'm just going to feed on that line, and I will be catapulting over the top. See if I can get some better. Might need a little bit more shot on there. Again, trap the line just before it goes in. Keep your rod on your knee. Always have plenty of catapults with you. Always have 2 or 3 catapults. You can start loose feeding. That's rubbish. That's awful. Get a better, slightly stiffer catapult. Let's get the line. There you go, that's better. Yeah, perfect. Let's get rid of that one. I think that could have taken another shot by the look of it. Oh no. We missed that one, look. See the maggot? Completely out. So we missed that one. Try that again then. Shame I couldn't get to the shop yesterday and get some live maggots, but we'll persevere. feather the line, that's perfect. See how that line's nicely floating on the surface? And as it comes round, you want to just loop it over like that, and lay the line flat behind the float, so you're not getting a bow, because as soon as you get a bow and the line goes in front of the float, this is why it's best to cast downstream and feed downstream, because if you've got a bit of a breeze, there's lines building up there. You just need to mend the line behind the back of the float. I'll turn you around a bit. You see the float moving down there. Oh, we've got a bite there. And look there. And we're in. And it's just a gentle swoop behind the head. It's not a big whoosh. That's a nice roach. You've got to keep that line straight behind the back of the float. Same as on a stick float. As I say, if you let that line overtake the float, you'll drag it offline. And if the float starts moving faster than the current and your bait, it looks unnatural. So with a close face reel, it's different. You just press the button on here, there's pins inside that release the line. So again, it's quite hard to do this with the camera there, but I'm going to cast slightly downstream, trap the line, let the shot fly out in a straight pattern, mend that line. That's a little bit too, I've got to bite straight away there. You know what I mean? That's the line I want to be. Mend that line. If the wind does get really bad, there's a slight downstream. I could sink the line. So at the minute it's not too bad. It's really mild, so I don't mind. It's going to keep mending the line. I think I could take one more number 8 on that, but that looks like a bite to me. Oh, I missed it. The float just lifted up ever so slightly there. Let's have a look at the mouth of it. The mouth's alright. Let's try that again. We'll get some more brown bait in. That's better. Right, let's bend that line. Ooh, I bumped that fish. That. We get a lot better fish further out. That's a nice roach. And what I'm doing now is just seems to be casting a little bit. I'm just casting over my nice roach. Ooh. Catapulting some hemp and casters through. Not every cast, because I want to keep them down. And I think single maggot is better. And then I'm just ground baiting every sort of like 4 or 5 fish. I'm not going to go too heavy. And I'm just going to cast over the shoulder, trap the line, and that keeps the line straight. I'm pretty much fishing straight away there. Just there's some nice decent fish out there. Just catapulting hempen casters over the top. The good thing about using the close face reel, I can be direct contact all the time. Let that come out. I can trap the line, I can slow the float down. This is where I seem to get the bites. Just there, look. Obviously taking that time for the bait to reach the bottom. Another roach. Oh. Popped off. But, we will try. I'll try caster and some tears in a bit. We start getting some decent roach, and hopefully they'll get accustomed to the hemp and tears. But when you're fishing, it's imperative you keep some bait going in. You're not blasting loads. You don't want to overfeed them, but you've got to give them a reason to come to you. You've got to give them a reason to be in your area. And the good thing about feeding little and often is you're prolonging that feeding. If you go heavy and blast a load of bait in, you'll get a load of activity for a short period of time, and it'd be hard to hook the fish properly. They'll be in a feeding frenzy, they'll be flying all over the place, they'll be foul hooked. But if you just little and often, what normally happens is there's a bite there. Oh, I missed that one. Because the little ones come in first, they'll feed, and the bigger and wiser ones, they'll hang back a little bit. You normally catch them, you pick the little ones off first, and as the day goes on, you start picking the better ones up. Well, that's the plan anyway. But I mustn't forget to I'm going to feed this line down here. Just going to mend that line. Right, that's where you should get the bite. Right there. Right around there. There we go. A little touch there. I might just put another shot on there, another 8, and see how that settles. I'm going to strike at that one. Yeah, I can put another shot on there. Just I see the float moving, but it's not quite going under sometimes. Another little roach. They'll come in one after the other now. The good thing about a close-faced reel is when I get into the killing zone, or what I call the killing zone, is where you think you're going to get a bite like just there, you can just nip the line ever so slightly and just slow it down and just tease a bite and let that go again. I think that needs one. The one shot did drop off, so I'll just put that back on, but I still think I need another 8 or number 10 on there just to pimple that down a little bit more. Too much tip showing for my liking. Oh, that was on the bottom. So I'm going to put another number 8 on. Too much, I can take it off and put a number 10 on. See what that's like. I don't know what's going on here then. Well, I think we might have a little bit of a pike problem or something, because the hook isn't there. Completely gone. Yeah, just put another couple of shot on. 2-1 number 8. A new hook length on. I just put my favourite roach hook at the minute. Amazon B530, size 18. It's one of the blue long shank hooks. It's great for casters or hemp, tears. It's also good for maggot as well. I'm going to try a caster this time, but I put 2 more number 8s on and cast a little bit further out. You see where that fish is just risen, just slightly downstream. I'm leaving the bail arm open, so letting that float go down. Getting some casters, just pinging them behind the float, and some tears, some hemp, sorry. There's a few tears mixed in. And what you'll find is, you know, naturally, normally on a river like this, they seem to keep pushing out as the day goes on. There might be days where you can get them on the same line, but when they get wary, they'll just push out a little bit. I'm still feeding this inside line. Just fed another ball of ground bait, just to keep them in the area. Seems to be getting most of the bites further down. There. Let's check that. Yep. Right, let's go for another red maggot. The single maggot always seems to be better on the river, I don't know why. You might start taking the caster later on, and then you'll get the better quality fish, but single maggot, I mean, is always seems to be better than double maggot, I find. Obviously it looks a lot more natural. I think when I bring this float back in, I'm going to put another shot on as well. I want it right down. Don't forget to keep mending that line. Make sure that line's straight behind the back of the float. Yeah, the bait's been had, you see it. I didn't see that one, so I'm going to put another shot on it. And they're getting a bit cute and a bit coy, so if they keep doing me, then we have to look at the shotting pattern and move the shots around, and so we can start registering the bites a little bit more. I might start bulking them up into 2s actually. I think it's time to get some more ground bait in as well. Getting back down. There's a bite there. I mean, sometimes that's all it means. It's just all it takes. Sometimes just putting an extra shot or 2 on and just getting that float dotted right down. They're shy fish. They're greedy, and they're cute, and they're coy. Nice roach. As I say, you need to get that float dotted right down, because I see too many people. I'll catch this in. See too many people fishing and it's like that, and then the float's giving it all this and bobbing up and down and going down and coming back up, and it needs to be dotted down as close as you can get without going under on some days, especially on commercials and things like that. You would be surprised. I mean, sometimes just having it flush with the water and just putting a bit of Vaseline or grease on there just to hold it above the surface tension. When it's, you know, you're fishing in the winter, the water's crystal clear, the roach are very, very shy and the skimmers are shy. You've got to have it dotted right down to the merest pimple. If anything just touches it, it's going to drag it under. Another nice roach. You seem to come back a bit now. Single maggot again. Seems to be the best at the minute. We'll carry on with this. Let's see how we do. Go over the shoulder. Cuff first. That's better. Over that shoulder. Get a straight line on it. The fish had just turned up all of a sudden. Maybe there's a bit of a pike around before, I think. And another nice plump roach. They're coming thick and fast now. I think sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to get the confidence up. It's obviously a little bit wary at first. And like I said before, you get the little ones coming in first, all scatty, rushing in to get the bait. Look. Imagine you're at a wedding and you've got kids partying, a buffet on and sweets and cakes, all the kids come flying in first. And then the teenagers, and the adults last, you know. Sometimes it just takes a little while to feed off the little fish, catch a little fish. Then you'll start getting the better quality fish later on. That's why it's always good to have a couple of lines going. So you can fish one, let the other one settle, and then keep swapping between the two. And if this one goes a little bit quiet, I can go further out on another line, or I can come back in close here. That's why I'm keeping feeding the other line, keeping my options open. I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. I mean, there are days on here you can come out and you will catch on the same line all day long, and today might be one of them days, but you don't know that. It could all of a sudden just turn off. So just keep your options open all the time, and you know, sometimes it's just not the volume of fish there to be fishing one line all day long. Missed that one. The line was in. I was about to mend that, but I was getting a bite at the same time. I didn't get a clean strike on it because the line was in front of the float. As I said before, about the rods and that, I'm using this one. I've had this for years, and I love this rod for float fishing on the rivers. It's a Shimano Katana, 3m90, 13.5 foot rod. But it's the FA, the fast action one, which is more of a tip action. So it's a bit more specialised for river fishing and roach fishing. I think it's got a real flicky, fast action tip, as it says. So it's good for picking the line up and striking. It's got a little bit of power reserve in the butt section, but most of it is in the tip. It's good for light river stick float and waggler work. Leaving the bail off open. I think we'll bite there. Yeah. Struggling to get the bait in at the minute. I'm not complaining. They seem to be coming right up under the feed now. So you notice I'm not getting the bites down there anymore. I'm just getting them pretty much where I'm feeding. And like I said earlier on, that's why you want to feed downstream, because if I'm feeding directly in front of me, or the river starts to flow to my right, which we'll do here later on, you're going to lose all your presentation. So feed it sort of like 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock, you know what I mean? Right. Where did that... Let's get some bait in before I cast. Feeling a little bit more heavier now, not massively, but sort of a dozen or so pieces of casters and hemp. Oh, had a fish on down there. Gently trap the line, feather it. See how all that line just ends up in a straight line behind the float there. Perfect. Now I can let that go on his travels. And that's where I'm hoping to get the bites now. That's sort of half a dozen have all been here in this area. So obviously moving up under the feed. Mend that line. There's a bite there. Seems to be quite high. I might have lost another. No. Have a look at that again. Might have lost the weight. Top the line. And again. Yeah, need to get another shot on there. I just had a good play around from the shot and pattern. Just put another shot on and moved them all up, so I'm getting a lot slower fall for the bait. Going a bit quiet again. It goes through spells. But just a bit better fish. Have we got it in or is it not in? No. We missed it. We missed it. Missed in it. Well. I just put another couple of shots on. I've dotted the float down as much as I can. But what I've done is, as I say, push a shot, a couple of shots further closer to the. That's come off already. That one. Closer to the float, so there's less actual shot down the line. Give it more of a natural drop, and it seems to have worked. Just spaced him out a bit more. Probably do that again. Just pushing these shot up. Quite difficult to move these number 8s without them pinging off. You can probably start moving them and they come off. And I move them up the line. So I just want that bottom third of the rig to be a lot more natural. We'll try that again. What I've done is the first two shot a bolt together. It seems to have worked, and it might actually have come up in the water for the feed. So what I was thinking on earlier on, maybe on this line, just to keep them down, a bit more ground bait and less loose feed. Maybe a small nugget of ground bait every cast. I hope it doesn't start to rain. Looking at a few spots now. Typical, it was supposed to rain yesterday, bone dry all day. It's supposed to be bone dry today up until about 1 o'clock. Checked all day yesterday, all day last night, this morning. But we have a few drops of rain. Okay, well, I think we'll finish this session on waggler fishing on this fish. Another little roach, and then we'll so I'll quickly finish off because the batch is going to go flat. Quick session on waggler fishing. How to get started, all the baits, tackle and everything you need, how to go about feeding, plumbing up. Hope it all helps. I'll see you again in another video. Take care.
They banish me, never to be seen, to a place where the air's always filled with screams. So hot that the land only grows weeds. A place filled with demons and ghosts, tumbleweeds. Betrayed by some comrades, et tu brute, I might get you all back. It's not if, no it's when. Better watch out, cause I'm coming for revenge. I'ma train hard, I'ma go far. I will learn with every new scar. Got a cold heart, yeah, I'm feeling arc. Enemies give me energy from the start. Got an addiction to winning, so I will work till I get it. The sweat is dripping, I'm in it, I'll never stop till I finish. I'm feeling demons possessing, they took a hold of my vessel. The energy of a devil, yeah. A new man, a new me. Better watch out, you ain't never seen a beast. I don't always have control, he could be me. Got a chip on his shoulder and he got some sharp teeth. Anyone in my way, and anyone who betray.